Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gameweek 11 pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zoph, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Lateriser and Pras. After what feels like a very long time, boys, good to see you both again. Fun times in Thailand, LR?
Yeah, it was a good trip. Really switched off. The batteries are properly rebooted. Did a boys trip after I don't remember how long. So it's just so pieced out. Like literally, there are no decisions to make. The decision that we worry about is, do we lace for like 3 hours more or do we go out? There's no like hard agenda. It's easy going. People do whatever the hell they want to. Was quite a good boy because on this podcast we leave the debauchery to Pras. So yeah, what's up with you, Pras? How's everything going?
We know. You look very relaxed and we don't talk about anything more. You can't escape it, but it's okay.
Yeah. How was Wildcard week for you, Pras? Tell us, were you settled throughout the week? How did the team do? What was the week like for you?
Week was okay. So I think I had mentioned when we spoke, there were about 10 positions or 11 positions that were all final. And then it came down to who do you want as your fourth and fifth midfielder, right? And so I was debating Bowen and Gordon, like everyone else, then Palmer and Mitoma. And eventually, basically, I told myself, I'm not going to spend money on Bowen, for better or worse. And then I came down to Diaby or Mitoma, came down to then Mitoma, and then I had 1 million left, right? And then this Jesus news breaks. And then I'm like, I should just leave the 1 million in the bank. There's no need because I'm happy with playing Palmer. And then I think when I was on a flight because I was traveling for work. And then as soon as I landed, this news came and I texted you. And I said, is everyone not buying Nketiah now? And so I had missed the 1 hour of people being careful. Oh, he might be back. I was like, it's so obvious. We need to do it. And so obviously got lucky. He did well. And that was one of the highs of the season so far. So very happy.
I'm disappointed in you not showing up on the pod in necktie though. Like after a hat trick, when you just bring him in, it had to be done.
I mean, I did consider it, but then I was in back-to-back meetings. But yeah, maybe if he does it again
Or if he
against
had
Burnley.
taken the penalty, I think then maybe.
Yeah.
I honestly that it's so bad to complain about bad luck, but if Vieira doesn't have a kid, I'm pretty sure Nketiah takes the the penalty. But it is what it is. We can't complain.
What's up with you, Pras? Zoph, settled in the new house, the new background for our listeners and viewers today. Settled in, how's the first 3-4 days been for you?
Last week was quite hectic, but finally now feeling settled in. I would say pretty moved in. Have few wirings to be done, paintings to be like. Frank hasn't gone up on the wall yet, so I just put him back there, just to have him there. It doesn't feel the same without him, but otherwise pretty
Nice.
settled in, enjoying it.
Nice.
And LR, your wildcard, man. I mean, even though I got the necktie points, you overtook me for the week. I mean, you had a beautiful week as well. How was yours?
Good. I think it was one of the more stable wildcard weeks I've had in terms of.
It's the LR 2.0
30
wildcard.
Yeah. Like if I made up my mind on Saturday, Sunday, not much happened to change what I went ahead with by the time the deadline came around. So it was pretty smooth sailing. I mean, admittedly, so after Wednesday, I barely did any thinking. I mean, I sent out one team to Zoph on a Wednesday morning or Thursday morning from Phuket, and Zoph is like, these are not the images I'm expecting. I'm like, yeah, I just have gotten my morning coffee in right now. So it's easy going. It's the only half an hour, 1 hour I think about FPL. But yeah, smooth sailing, happy with how things went there. No complaints.
Who were the main guys who came through for you? I think Darwin came through, Diaby came through.
Yeah, Darwin and Diaby
Charlie
came, so-
Taylor.
And Taylor.
And Charlie Taylor. I mean, absolute legend that he is. Put in a shift because Gabriel decided to put his feet up, or Arteta made him put his feet up. So yeah, happy with that. Though a little worried though about not owning Heung-min Son, and a little worried. I mean, Arteta and Arsenal scoring 5 goals and having 2 Arsenal attackers and getting 1 return out of that, you do feel a little hard done by. But the whole strategy and thinking was to triple up on 3 teams, and over the period of 3 weeks, the points should come in. So let's see how it goes.
Good. Should we get kicked off, guys, with our sponsor plug first up?
Yep.
Take it away, Ella.
Right. So all the stats that you see on our podcast are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. We use this a lot while building a wildcard, and all 3 of us have had a pretty successful wildcard, I'd say. I think all 3 of us have done well ever since we've wildcarded. So it's a good time to become a member, especially with all the articles coming in now about the congested December period, especially in terms of minutes tracking, etc., and who gets the most minutes. We are going to cover bits of this in this podcast as well. So if you're not a member already, do click on the link in the description below, because if you think that you're done with your wildcard and you don't have any decisions, December has 7 FPL deadlines. You might not have the time to watch all the highlights. That's why quickly browsing through the members area during that congested period will help.
So good. Like, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ella, because we've been so tunnel vision into this game week 10 swing that we haven't honestly looked ahead. And Pras, you're going to walk us through, give us the old helicopter view of what's to come in the upcoming weeks. Let's go.
And
Yeah,
Pras,
let's do
before
it.
you do that, or after you do that, pledge our listeners to like and subscribe because they listen to you.
No, I mean, they listen to all of you, but
We get one
yes,
like every
please.
time, at least.
I mean, that like we get anytime, every time. So we don't need to ask. So okay, let's talk about the helicopter view, but we'll do it slightly differently. I mean,
Sure.
we're gonna talk about a particular team, and then I'll come to you guys on what you think in the schedule. Because like you said, I mean, we've been so fixated, we don't know what's coming up. And actually, compared to last season, for me, easily this is the most crucial period, from now until January, because there's no second wildcard or third wildcard to bail us out. One wrong move means you're behind 2 moves of other people who made the right move. So we need to basically have strategies in mind on how we tackle what's coming up. So if we have the Lego Mane slide, which is basically the week by week. So I think what is clear, the next one's off. So not
this one?
not the hop on, but the midweek one.
Yep.
That one. Yeah. So just big picture first, and then we'll do team by team. So big picture, what we have coming up. Obviously, we have Carabao Cup tonight, which may or may not have implications, but we will see if there's any first teamers that are in the game. Then we have game week 11. Not a lot of people are doing a lot this week. Some are sort of trying to get to an Arsenal or whatever. We'll talk about those. Game week 12 is then going to be the time where you're going to start thinking about what happens after international break. And after international break is the interesting part, where game week 14, 15, 16 is squeezed in a week. So you have basically a midweek Premier League deadline for the first time, which is game week 15. And because it's a midweek, you will not get any press conferences. It's basically you finish on a Sunday, the next game is on a Tuesday. You may get some, but you cannot rely on it. It's also the time when you need to think about, some players are a little bit rotation proof, but still first teamers. I can think of Brighton assets. I can think of some of the Liverpool forwards. So let's have a conversation about some of the players. Are these the guys who we want to hold between 14, 15, and 16? Even Man City guys, for example. Then an important one, which is game week 18. Game week 18 is the same time when City go to play the Club World Cup. And that's an important one because they play Brentford. A lot of people saw Mbeumo and what he did this week and may think, okay, I need Mbeumo back in my team. But you need to remember that Mbeumo is going to blank in game week 18. But do you still get him or not? Depends on your bench, depends on all the transfers that you make leading up to it. Another important thing about game week 18 is actually they have made the first game start on a Thursday, which is weird. We haven't really seen this before. So if the first game starts on a Thursday, the press conferences will happen on a Friday. You'll actually go blind into game week 18. So not only will you have Haaland, possibly Mbeumo, and a cheapo, plus you won't have any news on any player that's injured. So game week 18 is actually a weird one where we will go in blind and you need to think about your bench. You need to think about your transfers, possibly a free hit as well, which we won't get into in detail, but let's discuss it in context of when we're discussing team. And then we're not going to go beyond game week 20, but there is AFCON, Asia Cup, all of the things to come up where Son is going to go away, Salah's going to go away, Mbeumo is going to go away. So the whole landscape after 20 is going to change. It's too early to discuss all of that now. But this is big picture where we're sort of landing in terms of the big teams and the big events that are going to happen. So now is off. If you go to the hop on, hop off, let me come to you guys and let's tackle some of the teams on what do you think that you will do. So Man City is the natural one. Man City, obviously, we know that they've got tougher fixtures after Bournemouth. Some may say that they're fine and you hold Haaland or whatever. But now the question is, do you add more? Because game week 16, they play Luton. And basically, then they play Crystal Palace at home before the blank. People who are afraid of the blank will say, I'm not getting Alvarez. I'm not getting a City defender. What are your thoughts on Man City, LR?
After facing Man United, and there's a couple of factors in play also, right? They were bloody dominant, like start to finish, 4xG, highest they've had this season. And they tend to do this. They are, since the last 3-4 years, kings of the December period. Like whatever happens, whatever the schedule is, whatever the open is, they've mastered how to play in this period. And they seem like they're hitting that gear that they always do by the time November, December comes around. So if you're having Haaland, good. If you don't, I think you need to make plans to get him because I feel like they're just getting into the mood. I don't want to mince my words and sit on the fence. Alvarez is a good hold for Bournemouth, and then you reassess and see what Watkins, Darwin, etc. are up to. But with Grealish back, with Stones back, with Bernardo Silva back, like their big dogs are back, and City are about to hit another gear, in my opinion. This is what I sense from that team.
Just something I want to ask about Alvarez. I didn't watch the Manchester derby. I had a look at the numbers. The numbers were quite poor, and the guys in the Discord were saying that he wasn't even close to any attacking returns. And this is something that Pringle mentioned also on Planet FPL. In the bigger games, Alvarez is used in more of a pressing role where he isn't really involved in the creation or the goal threat. So after Bournemouth, do you possibly look to move him on or keep him through these difficult fixtures?
I think you look at Bournemouth and reassess. I just think that is what you do. You will not, he's not going to be rotation proof in this congested period. He might miss a game or two. And we do have other forward options now stepping up. But most people are sitting on two strikers and people are sitting on third striker, have somebody like Wilson or Darwin or something of that sort. It's going to be difficult to let go of Watkins in a congested period like this because you're at least going to get continuous starts. So that's going to be the question. It's going to be, if you don't have Watkins, do you swerve Alvarez for a Watkins? But I don't think you need to bother about that decision right now. Where do you sit on that, Pras, at the moment?
It's Darwin I want you guys to talk about a little bit. Moving on from Alvarez to Darwin is something that a lot of people are thinking about. Pras, your views on that?
So let's come to Liverpool. Okay, let's talk Liverpool then. So I
Sure.
think just to complete Man City discussion first, I think there's an edge if you think only Man City and Brentford. Let's take these as a couple because Man City have good fixtures 16, 17, and then 19, 20. And 20 is going to be a double, by the way, very likely to be a double. So that Brentford fixture that has moved from 18 is going to go into 20. So you're getting Luton, Crystal Palace, Everton, and a double of Sheffield United and Brentford at home. If you're first on the next best Man City player, we don't know who that is yet. Maybe it's not Alvarez yet. Maybe it's a defender. Maybe it's somebody else who emerges, even a Grealish if he's nailed. So there is a merit to think about a free hit. Again, we're not going to spend too much time, but that's another option where you can play and you can say, I can target the guys from Man City and not worry about this blank. Because also look at Brentford. If you look at Brentford, again, it's probably Mbumo, maybe a Wissa, but somebody else. But you can get to a Brentford now and you can get Luton at home in Game Week 14. You can get Sheffield United, Brighton, Aston Villa at home, which is, I think, a good Brumo fixture. Then even after the blank, he plays Wolves and then Crystal Palace, which is part of a double. So
And it's also with, I just want to add to that, when you're looking at Brentford's fixtures in game week 14, 15, and 16, which is, played in a period of a week, it's actually, you do need to be careful about how you're seeing a player in terms of how many games is he going to get in this period of 1 week. Like Boomer needs to be up there in terms of the expected minutes over this congested period, irrespective. So that is also a perception you need to sort of fixate in your head.
Correct. Because if you look at Brighton play Chelsea away, Brentford at home and Burnley at home in that 14 to 16 period, which is supposed to be really good. But who's going to play all the 3 games from So if you compare a Mitoma to a Bumo, for me, I take a slightly worse fixture and play Bumo because he gets 90 times 3 in that block of 3.
Yeah. Like I just think people need to be careful that once game week 14 comes around and you see good fixtures, I think Boomer's a good buy now also. I just think let's talk about him a little and see where you guys are sitting on him. 6 returns so far, 5 out of his last 6 returns came after the 60th minute, and 3 of them have come in injury time. But that's what you get from an injury time playing penalty taker. I don't see it as happenstance now. I've come around to him as a pick. I just think he's a good pick. I think he's going to be quite reliable in a congested December period where you want to rely on somebody like minutes. And we cited Brentford stats, Zoph, if you can pull them up.
Yep.
Despite having the problems that they have had so far this season, their numbers are just good. They're sitting second for shots in the box. They're sitting first for shots from set plays, third for big chances. And big chances is important because Brentford tend to sort of sit and not do much, but they do have like 2 great counter-attacking chances every game, which lead to these big chances. And Mbumo is invariably involved in them. 5th for XG and 7th for XGC. Just a good team. What do you think about that, Zoph? Do you think about the 18 blank in your head when you're assessing Mbumo now or come game week 14? What's your thoughts?
We had gone very cold on Boomo, right? Prior to his last 2 hauls. So what has changed? I think now, number one, we saw him play in up top. I think they always do that when a back three plays against Chelsea, against the bigger teams, he was further up. And in the previous game, they changed shape a little bit where they played Wissa and Boomo out wide with Maupay in the center. So that's obviously working a little bit better for them. I think 2 weeks ago, you'd have asked most people, Boomo would have been a sell after Burnley. And also we need to ask ourselves, again, I didn't watch much of the Chelsea game. If Sanchez hadn't kicked the ball to Boomer, would we be having this conversation?
I think it was... Sorry, Ella.
Go on, Pras.
No, I was saying, I think Boomer is still a good pick. If anyone who's on all set pieces, pens, plays 90 minutes is a good pick, So he was... I think it was more a case of letting him go for, these couple of tough fixtures, which is Liverpool away and Arsenal at home. And you can also say Chelsea was not the easiest. Obviously, he did very well. But I think from a perspective of getting him back, I think, at least for me personally, it was always a case that he needs to be back. He's as good as it gets in terms of a sub 7 million pick for everything that he's doing.
Correct. But I don't think ultimately I would be making plans to get him back in right now still. I think possibly maybe I think you could probably make do with other picks, maybe hop off Diaby or hop off a Mitoma, maybe later on when the fixtures get a bit more congested.
So that's game week 14.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of him as an enabler? Because we have a discussion for Pedro Neto replacements and people looking at 6 to 6.5 million midfielders and we put a table. Boomer's like 6.6, 6.7. Would you just go
6.7.
up there more? Or would you look at the others in comparison? Palmer impressed me, Zoph. He created 4 great chances. I thought he could have maybe had 2 or 3 returns in that game. I mean, I remember a chance to uh, Madueke hit the bar, created 2 good chances for Sterling and Cucurella. James almost crossed it to him and he missed it. So he's looking superior to his counterparts in the wing position or the 10 position at the moment to me. Would you be worried because there are reports coming out that Nkunku is going to be back in 3 to 4 weeks? Once that happens, is there going to be competition or you think Palmer's secure?
I think Nkunku has to go up front because that's what we are lacking. We're lacking the goal scorer, and that's the problem again with Palmer. He's more of a creator than a goal scorer. He's relying on forwards who are just not finishing. That's the issue. They can keep creating chances, but if the guy is not going to score them. So I still think he's a good pick, but not a great pick. But at 5 million, you really can't go wrong as an enabler there.
Who are you guys liking though in this bracket? Pras, Zoph, if you can go to that table, we're looking at Palmer, we're looking at who else is there? Gordon at the moment. We're looking at
Suchek is out of the
Ward-Prowse?
conversation now. I think Ward-Prowse also just pretty much only set pieces now. So there's not
Wang
really
is
much
there.
of the Wang is one. I think he has a good fixture this week. I think they play Sheffield, right?
Yeah, but
and
Hwang
Adingra is there.
without Neto,
Without
right? I mean,
Neto,
it's
yeah.
not
The
Hwang
supply
with
line.
Neto. Yeah.
The news we got today that Eze and Olise are back in training. So they probably won't make this weekend, but the weekend after is interesting because Palace have incredible fixtures.
Who do you like though? I just feel like if looking at this table, maybe I like Gordon and maybe I like Palmer.
See, now the problem is with Gordon, the X minutes have gone up. But because of that, right, I think that the way that Newcastle play with the intensity, if the same guys are going to play 3 games every week, there's going to be a drop-off in performance. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. But I like him as an option as such. But not as much as I did like maybe a week or so ago.
Yeah. How do you rank this though? Gordon, Palmer, and maybe
Mitoma
I think it wouldn't be
has to be in the conversation.
And Adingra also at 5 million. It has to be in the conversation. Now started 3 games in a row.
How do
you
play
see this?
this weekend? I hadn't looked at Brighton's numbers.
So what's happened is this week, Brighton played with 3 centre backs. So both Adingra and Mitoma played as wing backs. That said, they were still fairly attacking, but I think this shape maybe sticks until the time Estupinan comes around. But like the inkling I got watching the highlights was that the lack of Estupinan isn't good for Mitoma.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
I agree with that.
That's where and how I see that. But this was the first time they changed the shape, so we don't know. Adingra didn't do much. He was quite wide. Had one good chance when I think they crossed from the other side and he had an open goal, but outside of that, didn't do much. Still have a great run of fixtures. It's a great punt. You just need to sort of amend your expectations that it's a punt.
Right. I think Mitoma, Diaby, Gordon, these 3 would be the top 3, and I guess the order would be interchanging. Would you agree, Pras?
Well, I picked Palmer over Gordon, so I'll have to put that just because I put, that's who I picked.
Was that a price thing? He's your 8th attacker, right? Because you got Nketiah.
He is. But I could have gone for him. I was thinking of
but you don't want that structure. I'm saying, like, let's say if you have the money to spend, let's say around 6.5, you're going for around Neto, you have a little bit money to spend.
If it's 6.5, then we're talking, I think Mitoma is easily the best out of them. Then we're talking about Eze if he's fit, but we don't know if he's fit yet. And then Hwang is decent. He's probably gets more minutes now without Neto, but is a worse player. So on the balance short term, I think Hwang is fine as well. But I think Palmer with pens is still in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think Gordon's a runaway for me over Palmer either. Like I just saw a lot more from Palmer. He's just a very good player. Like that jumps out to me, and
he's probably going to play up top.
Yeah,
against Spurs. That's what you tell me, Zoph. Won't you guys play the same way that you played against Arsenal with Spurs?
Not necessarily. Spurs are very different, set up in a very different way than what Arsenal do. Arsenal look to control the games a lot more, where Spurs attack. We're looking to play. I don't think we'll need as many bodies in midfield as we do against Spurs and we did against Arsenal. I think with Spurs, we're probably more likely to play Jackson, I think, who can actually still make those runs behind. You need that more so than the control in midfield.
Interesting.
That's
So
my
it's
guess.
sort of split between. I think at the moment I still slightly prefer Palmer to Gordon. Zoph prefers Gordon, and Pras still slightly prefers Palmer. And I don't think any of us like Wang as a pick. Is where we are at.
Yeah, I mean, with Newcastle, you see between Newcastle and Chelsea, fixtures are both not ideal. So this is why
Yeah.
I'm saying I would rather just have the Palmer, because I know I 100% want Palmer from game week 15, 16 onwards when Chelsea's run is really good.
And let's say you were buying today in the 6.5 to 6.7 million bracket, because that's when we're talking about Mitoma, Diaby, and who was I talking about earlier?
WordPress? Or is
No,
it?
no, no. I was like, this guy's in this bracket.
Dingra,
No. Bumo. He's in this
Oh, yeah,
bracket,
of
right?
course.
Oh,
Bumo's better
yeah,
than all of
yeah,
them, man. That's not a
yeah.
conversation.
Easy. It's like if you're buying today, you'd buy Bumo over Mitoma.
No. We just did last week, right? I would still take Mitoma's fixtures over the next three.
Fixtures, yeah.
But it's a fixtures thing. But if you're putting all fixtures aside as a pick, I mean, Mitoma's not on set pieces, not on penalties. Attacking data is worse. There's no reason to say Mitoma's better than Mbumo, even though it doesn't sound like a sexy pick, which we've talked about many times in the past.
But the question is, because we are on Wildcard, so we are pretty settled with our teams, but I don't think everybody is settled. If you're buying today as an enabler in this price bracket, where are you going? Because I do think that we need to start thinking.
Sub 6 or 6.5?
The 6.5 million bracket, Mitoma, Diaby, and
Mitoma.
Bumo. Because you'd go Mitoma.
I would as well, probably. I would go Mitoma as well.
I think I'd go Diaby at the moment. I think I'd go Diaby over Bumo, because I think it's still too early to start thinking about the December congestion. I think you start planning for that maybe in 2-3 weeks, or maybe post the IB. Not right now.
The thing with Diaby is he's had his best game, right? I mean, this was the game that you wanted him. Of course, he has one more good one, which is Fulham at home. After that, Villa is basically a home champion, right? I mean, they're beating people at home badly, and the easier fixtures, the next two, are away. So it's a trade-off. I mean, I think Diaby is a good pick, but I'm just saying if you're comparing between a Mitoma, at the moment I would go Mitoma, but of course we can differ.
So the thought process is, I still think there are two things. When is Purvis going to get fit? And if Purvis is going to get fit, is Mitoma going to be a lot more central? Because I just prefer Diaby, he did a lot more second striker stuff in this game. Like, I just like that position in a reliable team like Aston Villa, which is less prone to rotation compared to a Brighton and Hove Albion, to a Mitoma, is what my argument is for that debate.
Okay.
Right. One more name I want to throw in, guys. The chat is mentioned a couple of times. Douglas Luiz.
As an enabler?
As an enabler, and again, we are talking about guys risking going from netto. You can't go above 6 mil. Let's keep the discussion for temporarily for sub 6 mil, guys. What do you think? How would you rank him there?
Last. I don't like him as a pick. I think you go Palmer or Gordon if going in that price bracket. I don't like Wang. I don't like Lewis as picks.
I mean, don't hate him, but he's, when pens and set pieces make you a okay pick with good fixtures. But yeah, I agree. The others are better, and he's also on 4 yellows, by the way.
Yeah. And this isn't predictable. Like see what happened with Watchlists, right? Like exactly 4 or 5 weeks ago, he got a couple of set pieces back to back. But something like this, you need to be really patient as an FPL manager, because penalties and set pieces and shots from outside the box aren't predictable for players. Yes, he's gone on a run of doing that 6 home games in a row. I understand that, but I just don't think it's predictable. When I'm watching Aston Villa, the majority of the runs are going to fall to the wing backs, and the two players playing as the central striker. Zaniolo was very involved as well. I just don't see Doug Lewis involved. I don't think it's a good pick. I think it's almost trappy because of what's happened in the last 6 weeks.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the macro. So we talked Man City, we've talked Brentford. So Zoph on Liverpool. So you wanted to chat Liverpool. So I think, of course, a lot of people, in fact, most people listening to this will already have Salah. LR did really well with Darwin. If you were on Wildcard today, would you, because I know LR's answer. So would you still take that risk with Darwin, or are you still in the camp that, look, going week 14, 15, 16 is going to be very bunched up. There is no chance he starts all those 3 games. Or are you going off the camp, the guy is probably posting Haaland numbers, just take a chance. If he misses a game, he misses a game.
I think it'll be a bit short term, because see, right after the international break, you have Man City away. I think he probably will be used as a substitute, and even if he does play, not a great fixture, right? Again, he won't play the Europa League, might start one off Fulham. I'd probably stick with Alvarez short term. I wouldn't really move off to Darwin. I wouldn't put anyone off. I don't know how long is Jesus out for.
Could be anything. He's not telling us. So it could be 2 weeks, it could be a week. We don't know. Or it could be longer. We don't know.
If we get some sort of clarity, I possibly prefer Nketiah in the short term.
I don't know, man. Like I think like there's just a lot of looking at fixtures and all of that happening here. Like I think we need to realign our perception in terms of what Liverpool were last season and what Liverpool are this season. Like Liverpool are probably the best or the second best attack in the league this season. And you have a striker who's 7.5 million, who's hogging majority of the XG for that team. Not majority, but a high percentage of XG for that team.
You can say majority. It's very much so that it's a non-pen XG is very much falling to him. And like you mentioned, they're second for XG non-pen over the last 6 game weeks.
Yeah, people haven't realized they've just had an incredible window. Their big problem was the midfield. And that midfield looks incredible. Like Szoboszlai looks like probably the signing of the season in terms of how much he sorted that midfield. Gravenberch has really, really impressed me. The holes and the gaps have been filled really well. They don't really have that midfield problem. Every time you're watching Liverpool play, they're just dominating. They're literally dominating start to finish, attacking really well. It's going back to the levels of the Salah, Mane, Firmino levels. So like people need to come around to that. And I feel like Liverpool are one of the few teams that have a good run of fixtures in December as well. Yes, you will see some doubts, but if you don't have Tsimikas, maybe get him in place. Even if people are, Worried about Darwin's expected minutes, I think the risk is worth the reward here. There's also Szoboszlai as a pick that needs to be spoken about. Tom Freeman highlighted in his digest article on the Scout this week, where he said that in the last 4 out of 5 games, Szoboszlai has created 4 chances in 4 games. He's also on half the set pieces. He's also got a great shot. The games again are the ones where Liverpool dominate. Still, I think he's competing with a lot of strong players to be considered as a pick, but Liverpool are attacking and you need to think of getting more chips in that pot.
Yeah, because Salah now pretty much has become like Haaland, right? In fact, possibly more of a mainstay in most people's teams. So you do need to buy an additional ticket. So I get the point you're making. I'm definitely considering a lot more than I was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, because they're just attacking, right? Our perception needs to change there because they're really good now.
What do you guys think of Liverpool long term? So after game week 16, basically people will see a lot of red. They'll see Man United at home, Arsenal at home, Newcastle at home as 3 of the 4 fixtures. All so again, we're just, all at home. No. So this is why I'm interested to get your views on, would this be the time you would look to say, I can spread the Salah money because he's off to AFCON after this anyway? Or would you say
soon?
Okay. So we were just finishing the Liverpool discussion. I think I'm with you guys, but I can already say that we may see a Salah out movement by game week 17. Maybe not for Man United, but by game week 18, because then that's the blank game week. And you know that in the blank game week, people already have to bench Haaland and they might think, okay, I need to afford other players so that I can have a better bench and things like that. So something to keep in mind, but I'm completely aligned. I think if you can get to Tsimikas, Salah at a minimum, and it's not easy to get Darwin, especially while Watkins is in our teams. But if you can, I mean, you did really well with that, LR. So I think we're sort of aligned on Liverpool. Let's go to Aston. I think Arsenal is a little bit...
something, guys. So I think I want to touch upon Tsimikas this week. How do you think it's time for somebody who's not on a wildcard? Is he worth a transfer in this week for maybe, let's say, we have people who have Udogie, who's possibly an issue. Botman, we've heard. He's had a bit of a setback. Is he the number 1 defender that people need to target? I think so.
I
agree. It's between him and Gabriel still. Like, it's a good point to just bring up Gabriel as well. I don't think I'm worried about him. Arteta mentioned it was accumulated minutes over the last 6-7 games for Gabriel. And I think it was a rest. I don't think you have to worry about it too much. Would you guys think the same?
Agree, because he rested all the guys who had played a lot of international. I think Odegaard, Tomiyasu, so there was a clear pattern there, and this was the game to do it, right?
Correct. Agreed. Not worried. I think none of us are worried about Gabriel. I think Tsimikas is the guy to get if you want to do a defensive transfer this week, given the Botman issues, the other, if you want to move on a Dogi or a Poro. I mean, Poro could be okay, but I think Tsimikas is the one, but we want game week 14, 15, 16. He's going to miss one. He's not going to play the 3. I really doubt. But I think he's still maybe worth it.
I think he could play all 3 also. We don't know yet. We don't have any sample size in this period. But he is
Yeah.
contributing in their attack significantly. And the thing is, these are teams that are effectively going to low block, right? That's when you really need Tsimikas, Fulham, Sheffield United, and Palace. If it was, you could say Manchester United, Arsenal, that period it was in the closer thing, but you need a bit more solidity. That's when you play Gomez.
Okay.
Yeah, Arsenal just have much more locked-looking clean sheets. Like in the next 5, 3 are Burnley home, Wolves home, and Luton away. They look like really good clean sheet fixtures at the moment. So, like, it's a tough bet. But just because this week is an easier fixture for Tsimikas, you want points on board, I'd go with him.
So Arsenal in general, guys, I mean, if the stream is okay, then let's talk
Looks
Arsenal a
fine.
little bit. A lot of people didn't get Arsenal, and I think it was okay. Saka didn't do much. Odegaard didn't play. Martinelli blanked. But going forward after Newcastle, I mean, their run is probably better than others in the similar price bracket. So, the fixtures that you just mentioned, Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton, Villa, Brighton. So apart from game week 18, which is again the blank game week, you want to hold your Arsenal assets. So first, as someone who doesn't have Saka, if I understand correctly, right, Zoph, what's your plan with him? And is this something that you're looking to do immediately after Newcastle, or you're happy to wait?
So full disclosure, I've already made an early move. I've done share to Tsimikas, which gives me exact cash for Maddison to Saka. I was prepared to overlook him for this period with the Newcastle game, but there's no question in mind. Game week 12, Saka is coming in. I would have taken a hit for it if I needed to, but now I'm hoping to fund it with that move. Arsenal from 12, the run, like LR said, is much better. Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton. Need to jump on that.
I'm not sure about the needing to jump on that though. Like one thing that startled me as a statistic is he's not had any shots since game week 7.
Unlike a certain someone.
Yeah, that's just this is incredible as a statistic. And Maddison, like, I'm feeling bad losing Maddison and Son because they're just a solid team. I don't think the fixtures matter. It's a little bit of Bielsa that we need to get into our head when we're looking at Spurs. And one good thing that has happened with Spurs is Brennan Johnson is back, and I feel like he's making the Spurs attack a lot more functional as well, in terms of how he's as a player as well. So you need to think hard. Like, I don't think you
But
need to
you
be
look at the
set on this.
fixtures. The fixtures you look at, right? Ignore Chelsea. Chelsea is an easy fixture. Villa, Man City, and they have Newcastle during that period where Arsenal have those prime fixtures. I think you can possibly get rid of one of them. Like we discussed earlier, Son is where you stick with him, but the ceiling is definitely higher with Saka in those games.
Yeah. But think about Saka versus other Arsenal attackers as well. Because something's up. I don't know if he's carrying the injury or something, because everything that came through in that previous game from Arsenal came from that left-sided triangle of Martinelli, Nketiah, and ESR. Like, Saka did nothing in that game. And he's, ever since that injury niggle sort of thing, he just hasn't looked like his usual self. So just monitor is what I'm saying.
I'm still big on, I mean, just to take one extreme side of this, I don't think in this fixture period, between Maddison and Saka, it's as comparable. I do get the sides, and over long term, I think they could do well as well, Spurs. But in this short period, I mean, same Mumbumo logic, right? I mean, the guy is taking corners, at least from the right-hand side. He's on pens, we think, mostly. And he's playing pretty much 90 minutes most games. So unless there's an injury issue which recurs, which affects the number of minutes, I just think you need to get. I mean, Martinelli is a good add-on, a bit like Darwin with Salah, but I don't think he covers Saka. I don't think. I really think there will be a 10-15 point haul for him in this period, which you don't want to miss, because he may get a pen. He's still trickling along with these set piece corner assists that he keeps getting. It just adds up, and in one game he gets 2-3 of them.
Yeah, you're right. Like, it's a case of the fixtures will bring the form, and the class is there anyway. So I get what you guys are saying. I'm convinced. Yeah, you get Saka. The fixtures are just too good.
Let's talk Brighton. So Brighton's fixtures, I mean, we talked about it a little bit in terms of. Actually, let's finish on Arsenal. Is there a third Arsenal that people should be thinking? Obviously, Nketiah was one which, for me, is a very short-term pick. I mean, I got him until Jesus is back. And if I get lucky, Jesus is sort of out longer term, and I get a third pick that not many people have. You have Martinelli. Third pick, LR, are you happy with Martinelli? And would you say that's the best third pick that someone can get?
At the moment, yeah. He's looking a lot sharper. I don't know how he came out of that game without an assist also. He's looking very good. I'm happy with him as a pick. In fact, I don't think he's a bad buy this week either, because Newcastle do look a little tired, and he's coming up against Trippier and Lascelles on that side, which isn't exactly the best defensively apt side, and they tend to create a lot. So, and then I think that Burnley fixture is just tailor-made for Martinelli. I think he's a good differential. I'm sitting comfortably as a Martinelli owner at the moment. And I just want to add on to talking about Newcastle here. It's just not that Botman is injured. They've had the Tonali issue, they have the Isak issue now, and they have the Harvey Barnes issue. They're first team players that Eddie Howe likes to rotate, which is why the fatigue is adding up for that team. So just wanted to mention that. I think I'm expecting Arsenal to win at St. James's Park this week.
That's big. I always back Newcastle at home. But yeah, I do understand with the injuries. So if you were in Wildcard next week, so let's take out the Newcastle game out of the picture. Would you get a third Arsenal?
I would probably go with Gabriel and Saka. That's it. Unless we get clarity that Jesus is out for a few weeks. I think they're more talisman in midfield than Martinelli.
What about double defense?
Who would you buy? Who's the next upside guy? Because ultimately, after Gabriel, Zinchenko, I still feel it was in this busy period, he's going to miss a game. Saliba doesn't have the upside, and Ben White is just so expensive.
But there are not many upside guys this season, irrespective.
Then you go for the cheaper guys, right? At 5.2, it seems a bit expensive without upside.
Yeah, but like if we're talking about good defenses this season, I see the top three are City, Arsenal, Newcastle. Like in terms of reliable defenses that you trust for clean sheets. Everybody else is Liverpool maybe are coming back to being good for clean sheets, but outside of that, nobody's just reliable for clean sheets anymore. So I am not against going double Arsenal defense if you want to, because already I think top 4 clean sheets this season. Because of how pragmatic Arteta has been this season, I don't see that trend changing massively. So yeah, that's
the numbers are great.
I don't think
last 6 game weeks 3.52. That's it. XG not been conceded. That's very good.
They are playing defense first.
Yeah. So it was a consideration I had on Wildcard as well. It's just Tsimikas. If Tsimikas didn't come to us a gift, I'd probably consider Arsenal double defense a lot more.
Yeah. Having said that, by game week 16, we'll start thinking about Colville. We'll start thinking about Botman, because hopefully he's back by then. So the cheapos will be back, and then of course we'll all have James as well for the Chelsea good run. So eventually,
Estupinan as well will probably be back on the radar.
Yeah, Estupinan, the defender whose team keeps no clean sheets.
The attacker from Brighton.
Yeah. It's a stat and a half that the 3 promoted teams, Bournemouth and Brighton, the teams that haven't kept clean sheets this season.
It's gonna come. Game week 12. Yeah. They play Sheffield United. It'll come.
Yeah.
Let's go to Brighton then. Let's go to Brighton. So I mean, I think we don't need to spend time on Mitoma. I think we spent time on Adingra a little bit already. As a team, though, let's talk Brighton as a team. A lot of people obviously think this fixture swing, you can get Brighton where not a lot of people have. But now, when I look at it actually deeper and I say, who do I want from Brighton? There's minutes risks. People went João Pedro, he didn't start. Mitoma is the one that looks most likely to start, and Estupinan once he's fit. But then we get into this game week 14, 15, 16 block of 3 games in a week. Anyone else apart from Mitoma, maybe Adingra and Estupinan? Even Estupinan, I'm a little bit cold on now.
I think we have to, because he's coming back from an injury. Exactly. So I don't think he'll play him with 3 games a week. He will be a little more cautious. Even Adingra, he could slot one of these Buonanotte or even play Pedro on the wing. You don't know. Yeah, I think it's Mitoma or bust.
And as Pras likes to flip the switch, I'd actually think there's an argument that you actually want the centre backs in these games because they're less prone to rotation. So it might be worth not chasing the upside in this period, because the wing backs are doing a lot more of the running, so they will miss the odd game more compared to everybody else.
Cash to dunk.
Yeah. Brentford. He's the pick, man. He's a pick. I'm actually feeling that's one regret that I have, that I didn't go for him and I went Maguire instead, because he just looks really, really solid. In that Everton defense that have improved, are tuning a lot more to Sean Dyche of old tunes, etc. as well. So things are looking good for them.
Right. Okay, let's finish it off with two more teams. So one is Spurs, one is Villa. So because they're both form teams with tougher fixtures later, um, let's do Spurs. So Spurs have Chelsea now, Chelsea at home, then Wolves away, which are both okay. Villa at home, which is probably very good. Then City away and Newcastle home in that block, 14 to 16, with West Ham at home in the middle. So, I mean,
West
Zoph
Ham
already
at home now, by the way, which is a good
is a good
fixture for your
fixture.
attackers.
So you
Like
don't have
they
Son. You tell me.
all I've been thinking about is how to get Son. Like I've been thinking about if Saka shits the bed versus Burnley, I might sell him instead of Martinelli in 13 and get Son in because I want Son in. Is how I feel about Heung-min Son at the moment. Like he's a superior asset to any Arsenal attacker. I don't care about the fixtures that much. The time to punt for the Arsenal attackers were the two home games against Sheffield United and Burnley, in my opinion. The fixtures after that, they're good, but they aren't as good as Burnley and Sheffield United at home. Like Brentford away, Wolves at home, Luton away. They aren't great fixtures. Maybe the fixtures after that, actually, Aston Villa and Brighton are good for attackers, but Son is the better asset. And Arsenal need to show a lot more. Their assets need to show a lot more from an FPL point of view before I go there. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I mean, there's a million difference now between Saka and Son, but I don't think there's a debate there. I mean, if he's especially, they haven't got a single pen this year. I mean, imagine if they got a couple of pens as well, like Arsenal have.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I think we mentioned on the last part also. It's either Son or Maddo on pens. I don't think it's just Son. It could be either. It's sort of like an Arsenal and a Chelsea situation happening there.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Zoph, you're keeping Son, right? I mean, that's not part of the debate. You're losing Maddison for Saka.
Absolutely. And I think Son is there, possibly the third best attacker in the game. You have Haaland, Salah, and Son. He's going to be there or thereabouts in the Golden Boot race, man. It's his time to shine this year.
Yeah.
Agreed. So
Yeah.
people who don't have Son, so like Ellard, so you are looking to get him, and you don't think Maddison covers him, right?
Yeah, no, Son is a separate league of an asset, and I think Madison's also an incredibly good asset. So now that I've targeted the Arsenal fixtures and the Aston Villa fixtures, I'm just planning. I'm patiently waiting and watching and see how far I get by without getting the Spurs attackers. But I do want to get them in my team, so they're my target in terms of who I want to get in. Because even in the December period, I think the accumulated minutes over Europe for the top teams in the last 2-3 months will also have a say. Spurs will generally just be fresher because they played fewer minutes. I mean, Kulusevski was talking about that in the post-match interview, and he was talking about how difficult it was last season compared to this season, not just because of fatigue. It's like when we're resting this week, we're sitting and spending time with our families. We're all just in a better mental headspace. And this, we've seen it previously, where these teams that have Europe versus teams that don't, they're a lot fresher December onwards also. So that's also a thing.
Yep, I had frozen, so I had
Oh, you reconnected, right?
switched off my video.
That's what probably changed the window positions. I'll fix that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, let's do Villa, because you wanted to talk about Villa, LR, because a lot of people after Fulham at home, that block of 3 that we talked about, will look at Spurs away, Bournemouth away, Man City home, Arsenal home as a time where you can dispose of your Villa players. But one thing to remember, in blank game week 18, they play Sheffield United at home, basically the prime fixture in the blank game week. So talk to us. I mean, should you hold double, triple Villa even through those fixtures, or do you hold one of them or none of them?
You give them the test against a tougher team against Spurs and then reassess, I think is what I am. Because Bournemouth is a good fixture, whether it's away, it's just a good fixture for Villa attackers because Bournemouth like to attack and like to press, etc. At least space for Villa. I think it plays into Unai Emery's hands. So I'm not in a hurry to lose them. They're reliable for minutes, will be useful. We'll probably end up selling one of them, if not two, by the time that comes around. But it isn't a hard sell, just because they're a good attacking team.
And the fixtures are at home. City and Arsenal are proper tests for them, right? The Tottenham game, I don't think we'll get much of a read, but I think they'll give both City and Aston a game at home. And we have consistent X minutes guys, right? I think Diaby, Cash, and Watkins will start all 3. I'd be open to losing Cash though. When you have Tottenham, City, Arsenal over the space of 4 weeks, that's possibly
I don't see a clean
there.
sheet.
Exactly. So that it could, but
Yeah.
I think Diaby and Watkins are perfectly fine holds, even in the tougher games.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of cash dovetailing into a Porro or a Colville, or like process James at that point, though. Going for James in December seems like suicide to me, but yeah.
It was a joke. Just to clarify, there's all the comments will be why you can't buy James. Okay, yeah, I think I agree. I would say coming down to just Watkins makes sense, but this is where Game Week 12 international break. Personally, I'm going to have a good think about free hit Game Week 18. Do I really want to hold my Villa assets, or can I take advantage of getting rid of them for City assets, which nobody will want to get to? Things like that. If do I really want to get, people will hold on a Diaby because they want to keep him for 18. Maybe I can get Bumo. So it's things like these that will I get that gain? Because there is a bigger macro point where actually we don't need a free hit this year as such, because the blanks and doubles aren't as many as what we've become accustomed to. But that's for another pod, another time. But big picture, we don't need a free hit necessarily.
No,
this
no,
year.
no. People are here to listen to that, Pras. Come on, give us a little more detail.
I'll give
and look at the smile on your face. Like, I've just seen Pras
People
talk
get
about
pissed
this.
off. They're like, why are you talking about
It's like the Vin Diesel. It's like the Vin Diesel gif, right? I live for this shit.
He's been holding on to that information for the last 45 minutes. It's been wanting to come out. I knew he wanted to give out that information. The moment it's come out, he's just got like a big smile on his face. Let it out, Pras.
It requires 20 minutes, but I can give a 2-minute version. The 2-minute version is this year, the FA Cup quarterfinal is in Game Week 29. And so there can be a strategy where you basically don't free hit in that week, but you dead end to that and you wildcard in Game Week 31. Why Game Week 31? Because Arsenal play City in Game Week 30. So when you dead end the good teams, you don't need them for 30 either. So wildcard will bail you out of that big blank. And this year, Game Week 34, when the FA Cup semi-final happens, there's actually a completely free midweek. So you may get no blank or no double because of the FA Cup semi-final. So the only other double is Game Week 37, where most people will bench boost. So free hit is actually, you either do it in Game Week 18 or you do it in Game Week 26 when, you have the Carabao Cup final and there'll be one or two blanks. It's not a huge chip this year. So you could think of doing it now and saying, I'm going to do it in Game Week 18. That's the thought.
What would set it up, I reckon, is the double confirmed in 24 City and Brentford. I think if you get that in place, there's a strategy to load up on these players and set up for the double and then go through the blank through a free hit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. How does that feel, Pras? So let it all go.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Tonight also, obviously I didn't give it away, but tonight also gives you odds of which team will blank in Game Week 26, because that will be in the Carabao Cup final. But we'll have all this in maybe the international break.
Pras's fans in the chat, he'll be a little busy tonight, so do not disturb is what I'm going to say. Right. What else do you guys want to discuss? Is there any team we need to cover outside of that? Any team that you guys have found interesting, like Wolves in general now
West
look
Ham?
like a good clean sheet
Let's
fixture.
talk about West Ham.
Yeah.
A lot of people have Bowen and are a bit worried. What do you guys think?
Don't need to worry.
You need to worry.
Yeah. My issue with West Ham and my reason for worry is not their attack, it's their defense. They don't look like they're in a good space defensively. They're conceding chances for fun. Their XGC numbers aren't looking very encouraging, despite some good fixtures as well. But there is no standout keeper that's looking better than Areola at the moment, so we are fine. But I reckon in 3-4 weeks, we might look at somebody like Vicario if Areola continues to shoot the bed. But for now, the fixtures are too good to worry too much about that. But Bowen, I mean, he had 2 or 3 half chances in that game. He was the only one that really had 2 or 3 half chances in that game, and they'll come through is where I am. I wouldn't worry.
With West Ham, it's always better when the other team has the ball.
Yeah.
It's in the case always.
We debated this. I think in the last spot we were speculating. But to be honest, between Diaby, Mitoma, Bowen, Gordon, Palmer, 2 of these guys will do well some weeks. This week it happened to be Diaby. Another week it could be Bowen and Gordon or something like that. So I don't think people need to stress so much. I think it's more about money. Like if you're desperate for money, then this is why people are thinking about Bowen, that this guy's taking up 7.5 million. I need to get to a Saka or I need to get to a Son. And so, yeah, it becomes a natural way to think about it. But as an asset itself, I think nothing has changed.
Yeah, Bowen's a good pick. Ward-Prowse is not a pick. Souček is not a pick. Except for Bowen and Areola, nobody else is a pick in that team at the moment.
Let's touch upon Palace. I think if you're in the market for a defender, because they are the team on the hop-off, and you see over here for the next 5, you can possibly move this week. And I think Gehi is as good pretty much as an Anderson, because you do expect him to get a goal every now and then. Also good for bonus. Anderson's are close to 5 now. I think 4.9. I think you can go for Gehi at 4.5 if you're looking to ship Botman.
No, I wouldn't. They have good fixtures, but I think there's Arsenal and Liverpool defenders available for in and around the price, and it's the lack of knowledge of the fitness of Eze and Olise. Like why Palace work when they are defensively so good is they have people who are carrying the ball forward. What happens is nobody's carrying the ball forward, so it's wave after wave after wave after wave of pressure and them defending deep. There's no breathing space for a team like Palace when they don't have their outballs. So it depends on the kind of uh, injury news that emerges for these two players. If Eze and Olise look good, then they're fine. Outside of that, I wouldn't be convinced about them as picks.
I think they will be back definitely after the international break, even if they're training individually now. The next two, probably then they'll be back after.
Yeah, and I just think you have Arsenal defenders for like 0.2 million more. Just get them.
It's a case of getting rotation. So I don't think Crystal Palace can be the first three, but I think as a fourth defender, like when Tsimikas says City, Palace has a great fixture. This week, I mean, you can argue if you want to play Gabriel or not, but again, you can play Gehi instead who plays Burnley. So I don't think I completely agree with you. They're not the same Palace defense when Eze is fit. So you're probably getting a average, slightly above average defense, not an elite defense. But if you're going to rotate and maybe try to just grab a little clean sheet here when your other defender has a terrible fixture, I think it's okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's do some questions.
Is there anybody else that we like defensively?
I'm just going through our questions from our Discord. To free up cash, what do you guys think of Lascelles?
Yeah, the question is, Varun asked if who's the best 4 million defender? So between Lascelles, Braithwaite, Taylor, and Baldock, who are you liking? I think Braithwaite's the one I like because you want nailed on 90-minute men with the December period coming in. Lascelles goes out as soon as Botman's fit, so I wouldn't go there at the moment.
I'm just looking at the fixtures for Everton. Is Brighton, Palace, Manchester United, Forest, Newcastle, Chelsea, and Burnley. Not great.
Yeah, there are some clean sheet fixtures in there, right? You just want a 90-minute guy that's covering your defender that's benched. He's a sub. He is not going to play him. And that's the reliable thing. If you want to save money, Baldock is now 3.8 million. He should get into the team soon. But these are the two I would look at. And Charlie
I would
Taylor,
personally
obviously.
still go Burnley. Only because, I mean, there are weeks like last week where you end up getting Charlie Taylor off your bench because things happen. But I think you plan for the fact that you don't need to play them, except when you have to play them, which is game week 18. And so for me, that's the tiebreaker. And for the tiebreaker is that Burnley plays Fulham in game week 18 and Everton plays Spurs. So you're not getting anything from Braithwaite in game week 18 when you have to play him. And similarly, Sheffield United, I mean, at the moment, they look the most terrible team in the league. So, and they also play Villa. So if that's your tiebreaker, because they're all, let's face it, bad picks, the least bad pick is the one that you know you definitely have to play in game week 18. That's how I tend to think of it anyway.
If you're not free hitting in game week 18.
If you're not free hitting.
Yeah. Good shot there. Good shot. Like, I wouldn't go Lascelles now, unless I hear that Botman's out for 2 months. It's just how I see it. What do you think, Zoph?
We're never going to get clarity from Eddie Howe on Botman's fitness, right? You're going to be sweating on Lascelles losing his place. I think I'd agree with you guys. Probably, but I still wouldn't consider Taylor and Baldock as much. I'd still like, if I had someone to come off my bench, I'd rank them Braithwaite first, Lascelles second, Taylor third, and Baldock is just not a consideration at all unless you purely need to fund.
Yeah, agree with that. Cool. Question from Karan. Best 4.5 million defender. I think we already discussed this. We like Tsimikas in that price range. Ed Wells, by the way, who's the winner, Pras, of this month's competition?
Our October winner, Ed Wells, gets a mug from FPL Merch and gets a 1-year membership from FF Scout. So congratulations to Ed. What's his question, Ella?
He, like you, is a fellow necktie owner. So he's like, do you hold necktie now, or thanks for the memories and bye-bye? Yeah, what do you think about necktie now? Do you buy him right now? Do you hold him? Do you sell him?
I don't think you buy him, especially not this week, because you don't need to play him against Newcastle, even though you may think Arsenal may win, but it's not really a high upside fixture. So you take a week, you see how the Jesus news is moving, because the Burnley home fixture, again, a money fixture. Of course, he was going to score a hat trick, but yeah, the upside is that Jesus is out longer and you get a few more games, which basically include also Brentford and Wolves. So if you have him, definitely not sell this week. You can potentially bench him if you have nobody, or even play him. If you don't have him, you don't need to buy him unless you hear news that Jesus is out for a long time.
We might get some clarity by game week 12 on Jesus, because that's when after he has to report to Brazil. If not from Arteta, Brazilian media might give us some news.
This was exactly my thinking when I went for Nketiah, that I will pretty much get the Sheffield United game, and I'm very sure Arteta is not going to play him Burnley at home, because if he plays him, he'll have to go to Brazil. So this is why I thought I'm going to get Sheffield United and Burnley at home, and then I'm happy to say goodbye if Jesus is fine.
Sexy suits you, Pras. I like it. I really like it. You actually do have it in you to punt away in a while. I don't think you're fully safe as a player.
I was, you know what? There was another meta reason, another big picture reason why I went there. The week before, if you guys remember, I was this close to Chris W, instead of using the word, because then it doesn't fit in the sentence. And so I was this close. I was clicking the buttons, and essentially I ended up picking Gibbs White. And I was like, what the hell have I done? It was a 1 week punt, and I could have got Chris W, and I didn't. And the guy scored a brace, and I'm like, look, I should have gone with my gut rather than what's the correct pick, because Gibbs White is on penalties, on free kicks, but against Luton, pick the bloody striker, right? So that's what I was like, why did I do that? And when I had the conviction on Nketiah, I was like, just go for it.
I'm sorry.
Now you can listen to this recording again with me saying Wood instead of Chris W and see how funny
it is, because Pras almost got Wood, but he clicked the buttons. And then some Morgan Gibbs White. So I don't know what kind of buttons you're clicking when you're getting Wood. Yeah, that played itself out there. All right. Cool. Where are we? What are we talking about? I have
Trippier.
No idea.
There was a question in the chat on Trippier. So it will keep coming up. I think we are all consistent when we recommended him. And we're also all consistent when we're saying that you don't have to have Trippier, even though he's a good pick in the tougher fixtures. And I think we all are aligned here, right?
Yeah, agree.
We need to talk captaincy.
I think let's talk captaincy. 2 words, Erling Haaland. Anything else to add?
No midweek fixture, but a lot of people don't have Haaland, in which case I guess you go Salah.
Is if we all three of us own both, have either of us remotely considered Salah or an Arsenal attacker? No, right? It's like as nailed as it can be on Erling Haaland at the moment.
In terms of so Rob T, who you can follow on Twitter, basically does these spread markets on goal scoring odds. This week, of all the weeks that have happened so far, by the way, that was Sheffield United last week. Arsenal Sheffield United was the highest. Now this is the highest, which is Man City at home to Bournemouth. Highest odds for most goals scored in a game. I don't think you need to overthink it at all. Of course, Salah can do well. He's a great pick as well. And if you don't have Haaland, then Salah is good as well.
Question to you guys, if you made your bed with no Haaland, would you flip the switch before Bournemouth at home? I would.
Zoph?
Not necessarily. Yeah, if you make the switch and you have to target the other fixture, it's just Bournemouth. You've decided you don't want him for the period after. You always knew the Bournemouth fixture could burn you, but you sold him thinking that Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, Villa.
Like that. The City are reaching that level now. They do November, December really well. And you can almost sense when they're hitting a gear. I don't know if it was City or United or both, but I feel like they're hitting that gear now.
I do agree with the point you're making there, but then if you've got rid of Haaland, it's purely for this period that you have. Yeah. I guess you have to write that out once you make your bed, because why else did you get rid of him, right?
But think about it, Zoph. You made your bed. Is it stubbornness to stick with your bed if Haaland is hitting form and City are looking dominating and there's a fixture like Bournemouth, or you just captain Salah, and like where would you stand? Imagine you don't own Haaland for Bournemouth at home. What would you do?
If I don't think he's going to do that well against the next 4, I would look to cover the points elsewhere. It's ultimately what decision process you made before. You can't let the appeal of one fixture and one performance necessarily against Evans and Maguire change your mind. Haaland has never been a bad pick. I'm sure the guys who sold Haaland never thought he was a bad pick. They just thought over this period they can make up the difference with the picks elsewhere. Has something changed from that?
Completely agree. I mean, look at this week. Luke Disable, who's been on this chat, he scored 84 points. He had Diaby, he had Darwin. So even though Haaland punished him, he did fine. So I mean, it could go completely bonkers next week where Salah blanks. The one thing that Haaland sellers have got is that Salah continues to do well, who's been their perma captain since they sold.
And nobody really captained Haaland last week, right? That's another reason also.
Correct. So the week it flips. But this is the week, because after this Chelsea away, I'm not captaining Haaland. I don't think so. Then Liverpool at home, he could be in the debate, but then Son plays Villa at home as well. Gameweek 14, Spurs at home, when Arsenal play Wolves and Liverpool play Fulham at home. I think you still captain Salah. Nothing has changed in terms of what your original plan was. I do get it. They'll need to do something else, like switch off the phone, go shopping, not watch the game. But it is what it is.
I don't disagree that. I disagree that nothing has changed. I think City are shifting gears with 3 of the really important players back in the team. Like, I think that has changed. So, like, maybe you monitor that, but people who are thinking about it or on the edge, I think City with Grealish and Bilva instead of Kovacic and Doku are a much better team.
But you're going to have to require a downgrade somewhere today. Is the Haaland money they will have to likely lose, let's say, a Trippier, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
If that's going to be a route, I'm fine with that. But I still don't like losing the Son or the Salahs.
Yeah, don't lose the Son or the Salahs. I'm with you on that.
Even Fair Trent, enough. This week, do you really need to sell Trent when he's playing Luton?
Yes. I don't think Trent is an FPL pick at the moment. He's not really doing the chance creation stuff, etc. at the moment. Don't try to get a 10-pointer and bet against a Haaland Bournemouth at home fixture.
No, but long term, I agree with you. But it's Luton, man. Trent's going to get a clean sheet plus maybe a return. I think I agree, but you have to sort of think of it as 1 week. I think everyone who will free hit this week will have Haaland and Salah. But I think you have to think of it as I've made 3 weeks. I've gained a lot. I've got another 3-4 weeks to go. We'll see how it goes. I mean, this is why you and I couldn't do it, but they did it. So I think they need to stick.
Like we always, like none of us have done it for a reason. But if you decide that's the way to go,
the question I need to ask is, do you need to stick? Like, at what point do you react to what you see and not react to what you see? And this is the money fixture. So that's the question, because FPL managers will be thinking, he's had 3 returns. I'm facing Bournemouth at home. Imagine somebody who did it last week. Like, not somebody who's had the Salah points 2 weeks before that. Is it stubbornness? Do you need to stick with it necessarily always? I think it's open. I don't think it's wrong if you change your mind in a week. It's fine.
Of course, not wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you're basically saying I'm going to take a -8 and correct a mistake if they perceive it to be a mistake.
Yep. I won't be taking hits necessarily to do it. Maybe max, and again, they have to be very particular about the guys who make way.
I can agree with that.
Who else we have? Now we're talking about Bowen we have a question from Palmer. Bowen to Foden to Martinelli as a 1 week punt. How to spread Haaland points if going without?
I mean, that's the thing, right? You need to have Liverpool, Aston Villa, Son, and Arsenal players, and hope and pray for the best. These are the teams that everybody's targeting. These are the teams where the points are at the moment. Would you guys add anything to this?
I mean, this week Foden is a good pick if he starts.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a 1 week punt, I mean, I think if that's what Parmo is asking, that he doesn't have Haaland, but he wants to move around Bowen for a week. If you have to, I mean, I would just say stick with Bowen. But if you want to be aggressive, I think Foden is okay.
Yeah. Also with people like Bowen, right? Like the middling fixtures or the bad fixtures aren't really bad fixtures, because West Ham like to play on the counter, like Zoph said at the top of the pod. West Ham don't like having the ball. So you don't mind it as well.
I would, for 1 week punt, I'd probably go Boomer.
Yeah.
Rather than Foden, maybe.
Yeah. It's just also, Palmo, your team needs to be in really good shape for you to punt away week on week in this moment, Like, I'm not saying Zos smirked. I'm not implying your team's in bad shape, but you don't know what you don't know in terms of injuries at the moment. And unless it doesn't involve captaincy or players like Salah or Darwin or Son, I don't think it's worth doing 1 week punting at the moment.
And yeah, macro point, next week, teams are looking incredible. If you roll forward your team one more week, everyone's team looks incredible because Arsenal play Burnley, Newcastle play Bournemouth, Liverpool play Brentford, Brighton play Sheffield United, Villa play Fulham, Man City play Chelsea, but it's Man City. So everyone's team's going to look absolutely amazing. So I can
I wait
see,
and sway.
yeah,
You can see it's fine to go for a punt at the moment.
I can see if you wanted to go for one which you don't mind holding longer term, which is why I like the Boomer one maybe. But you can take the insurance for injuries and just hold because I don't think there's such upside picks available this week anyway.
Yeah, I think that the one that's available is Foden. You mentioned it. Like you just play the fixture with Foden.
Or Bowen, yeah. Or
Yeah.
Boomer. I think those two are the ones, but neither of them are like you have to do it this week,
How just let's talk about it. How do you see the West Ham Brentford game playing out? Because neither of them really like to have the ball. Both like to counter. How it's an immovable object meeting immovable object. Actually, maybe Brentford like to play a little bit more. But
At home,
it's a tough game
at home they don't mind having the ball as well. I think at home I would say a 2-1 Brentford.
Same.
Yeah. And I don't mind it because if they like having the ball, then it opens up the opportunity for Moyes to do what he's comfortable with. Also, yeah, it's another thing that the punt is better is there's no Edson Alvarez and there's no Paqueta this week as well. Both are suspended also.
Point.
Yeah.
Alvarez is a big one. I didn't clock that.
Yeah. But also, it actually might be good for West Ham. West Ham's been terrible, and Edson hasn't been that good defensively in the last 3-4 games. Very mistake prone, etc.
They'll chuck Souček in there.
Yeah, there's Chuck Souček. Moyes needs to revert to West Ham being West Ham, I reckon. It might suit them. I wouldn't do the punt for Bowen this week. I'll think about it. Yeah. Just hold Bowen is what I would do.
What's the fixture right after? Just having a quick look over here. It's Forest at home.
And then Burnley. You hold Bowen. Yeah.
Bus teams?
Cool. Yeah, bus teams.
This is first up, Pras, you with Palmer with Nketiah on the bench. Harsh.
You guys tell me. I mean, team is straightforward, but I'll talk to you about my benching dilemma. So I've got Areola in goal. I'm playing Gehi over Gabriel because I just think Burnley away is better than Newcastle away.
I'll play Nketiah over Palmer. But why don't you read out your team? Sorry for the audio.
Guys. So Cash and Tsimikas. So I think defense is fine. Then Saka, Son, Salah, Mitoma, Palmer for the moment. Haaland captain and Watkins. I think it's just a question of Palmer versus Nketiah. And let me tell you my thinking. My thinking is twofold. Number one, our Discord. So Alex and others basically think that in the tougher fixtures, especially an away game, there's a slightly bigger chance. So I know there was people saying, Havertz can start any game over Nketiah. When it's a tougher fixture, there's a slightly bigger chance. So I reduced the expected minutes for Nketiah a little bit. That Havertz starts up top or Trossard starts up top. And then the second thing is, I also think there's a slightly higher chance, maybe not 100%, like you suggest, maybe they start, I've forgotten the guy's name, Jackson, or they play Palmer as the false nine. Because if Mudryk is back, Sterling is back, Enzo will be back as well, by the way, this game, hopefully, because he's had the kid. So I just think that team against Arsenal, he may revert to that, and then you play Palmer false nine. So that's why my gut instinct was Palmer, but I'll see what happens on Friday. But what do you guys think?
I don't think Palmer false nine is necessarily better for him for FPL prospects, though. I think he has to drop deep.
Incredible against Arsenal. Although he was good against Brentford as well, but against Arsenal, he was incredible.
I think I'd play over Palmer.
Like two things that are playing in my head is Spurs have actually just looked good. Newcastle have shown hints of not being that good in the last two games. It's just not the Wolves game. It's also the Champions League game that they had before that. And I feel like Arsenal are playing Newcastle at St. James's Park at a good time. They've sort of lucked into that. I just have a feeling about it. That and hot feet are hot feet. Like form is form.
Yeah, form is form. I agree.
Yeah, like that's the thing with me. Like I would have probably sided more with Palmer if Nektai hadn't scored the hat-trick. But that expected minutes conversation sort of becomes slightly more in favor of Nketiah because of the hat-trick. Does Arteta Actually, Arteta is very capable of being stubborn and sticking to what he might have decided for the Newcastle game anyway. But you have to think that this hat-trick maybe forces his hand a little.
Could be. I mean, one thing we haven't talked about is tonight there's Carabao Cup. So Arsenal plays West Ham in the Carabao Cup, and then Chelsea play. Who do they play? Chelsea play
Blackburn. We play
Blackburn. So if Palmer gets a full rest and Nketiah still starts, maybe that can. It's very close. Even in the models I've checked, the expected values are very, very close. So it's really not much in it.
I can see Spurs keeping a clean sheet with Newcastle. I'm not so optimistic. That's the way I see it.
Cool.
And also, you'd like,
So
and I think you should move Gabriel to second bench over Taylor. I think so, because I think Newcastle haven't scored their last two games against Arsenal last year. They're very capable. Arsenal away they go for more control. A 1-0 to St. James Park's very necessary. And anytime Burnley keep a clean sheet, I'm surprised.
Fair. I mean, I had Taylor third bench. I had Guehi. I didn't get the bench jam last week, so I thought I should think about it more.
But like Arsenal's pragmatic. They're just a reliable defense. They kept a clean sheet against City. Like that's what we need to fixate. I even think it might be okay to start him over Guehi because with Gabriel, there's always the one thought in my head that you can fluke a goal also. Like he's just.
Yeah, but that was home, right? Against City. Newcastle have one of the highest XGs this year. I get it. They're tired or whatever, but the team is they are XG monsters in terms of creation.
I agree, but the trajectory seems downwards. I feel like Arsenal are meeting them at a good time.
Fair. And maybe I think I got Guehi for a reason for this fixture, and next week in 2 weeks Tsimikas is Man City fixture. So I think I'll stick to the plan, but I do think Gabriel I'll move to second.
That's a bit closer, but for me Palmer and Nketiah is a non-conversation. I may be underrating Chelsea.
That's a bit closer. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with Zoph. Like it's okay if you go Guehi. It isn't a wrong. Go with your gut there.
Cool. Move on. This is now your team, LR.
Yeah, I've got Areola, Tsimikas, Gabriel, Cash, Martinelli, Salah, Saka, Diaby, Haaland, Darwin, Watkins, and on my bench I've got Maguire and Taylor and McCarthy. Thanks, Pras, by the way, for that shout. I quite like that I have gone him over in Nakamba. Only decision I have is who to start out, Gabriel and Maguire, is where I am. Everything else
is that really a decision though?
It is a decision. I don't think it's not really a decision. Maguire has been good. I think if Varane and Reguilon are playing, if Casemiro's fit also, maybe I get tempted to make the switch. But it's between these two. Outside of that,
Arsenal defense is good, man. They're the best. Yeah, Arsenal 3.5 XGC over the last 6 when they've played Man City in that.
Yeah. So as things stand, this is what my bus team looks like. So,
and both of you guys are saving, right?
Yeah, saving. And I did think, there was a little moment of pondering, saying, do I want to do a Palmer and get Martinelli out for a Foden? That's the thought I had, fleeting thought, but I was like, no. Like I actually like the Martinelli matchup.
And then you have Burnley home right after for Martinelli.
Yeah. And I actually think it's a good fixture for Martinelli. You like the tougher games. He did really well in all the tough fixtures last year as well. So,
did you leave anything in the bank, LR?
0.2, 0.3-ish, I think. Okay. That's the regret. If I went Braithwaite, I would have had more cash, like 0.2, but that's the thing. I just like him as a solid option.
Next week, I'm telling you, we'll be burning transfers. There's no transfer here next week.
I could get Braithwaite who I want to get.
That's see. What I mean. We'll be doing Turner to Strakosha or Taylor to Braithwaite. So, I mean, this is next week. Unless there's any injury, there's no transfer.
But we also maybe then reassess if there's a keeper to buy, I reckon. Like if West Ham continue to look bad, like that's maybe something we can think about. Cross that bridge when you get there.
Yeah. But I guess, money is going to be an issue. You have to find money from somewhere. My team, I've already done the early transfer of Share to Tsimikas since I needed 0.6 for Maddison to Saka. It was close between whom to sell, Share or Porro, but I think Porro's got a decent chance of a clean sheet this week. And next week after, they're away to Wolves, who are also without Neto. So the clean sheet odds have increased a bit over there. Quite attacking, capable of a 15-pointer. So stuck with him. Cash, Tsimikas, Porro in defense. Salah, Son, Maddison, Gordon, Diaby, Haaland cap, Watkins, and a non-existent bench.
Good moves. I have no comments.
Triple Spurs against your team. Interesting match to watch.
Yeah. Monday night is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm glad I said 1:30
Yeah.
now. There's no way I could stay up for catch the highlights after.
Yep. Do we have time for a few questions, or do you want to call it a day?
I can do a couple.
Let's do a couple of questions. It's been a while since we've done them.
I'm glad the stream was
Um,
consistent after. It wasn't my connection. I think it was just YouTube, because once you connected, it's fine.
Yeah. Also, if you guys, while people are typing out their questions, Zoph, why don't you throw in a like, subscribe, plug?
We're still trying to get to 30K subs, guys. Help us along with that. We're at about 28.5 or something now. Really appreciate your support, and the like helps us get the pod out there more. So please hit that like button.
What is the bus team? Jitin's asking, Pras.
Yeah, so this is coined by Always Cheating. Josh and
Brendan?
Brandon,
Brandon.
correct. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies to Brandon. Yeah, so basically they said, set up your team as soon as the game opens up in case you're hit by a bus. So that's how it was coined as the bus team.
Danish is asking, will Gabriel start for sure? I think all three of us are fairly comfortable that he will.
Yes.
Correct.
Because he didn't do the whole thing with like the inverting guy. He just did a like for like.
Yeah. It's an interesting question that Ritvik asked because, when Pras told me that we need to look at the 14 to 18, 19 fixtures, congested and things, he's asking about the Wolves defense. And Wolves fixtures are quite nice. Like after 14, they've got Burnley home, Forest home, West Ham away, Chelsea home, Brentford away, Everton home. What do you think about Wolves and the defense?
Don't trust it. If we had the upside pick like a Nuri or something, a Semedo, maybe who's consistently getting like attacking returns, but I'm not seeing the underlying numbers for the defense are quite poor, both for the players and for the team. Let's have a quick look at the numbers.
They don't even have a 4 million guy who you can get, right?
No, it would be like a 4.5-ish. They're mid-table for XG conceded non-penalty.
And having played tough opposition, it hasn't been easy fixtures for them.
That being said, he sets up very differently. He mentioned that on Monday Night Football. There are certain managers who like, this is how I'm going to play, irrespective of the opposition. He's the polar opposite of that. He's said pretty much I decide my strategies entirely based on the opposition's weakness and how we can affect them. So how he set up those games, with the easier fixtures, he might be actually more open and less likely to keep clean sheets.
Yeah. It's interesting in terms of whether they swerve their shape or not, because right now they're playing three at the back. And I actually like two of the defenders, and I don't know much about Totti, but Kilman and Dawson are both good, solid center backs for a team, So if he continues with three at the back, then there could be a case for that. So I think we have time to assess and you think about it then.
What else? Adingra and Gordon, we've already discussed.
By the way, if Neto is fit at that time, there's a potential to maybe swerve Boomo if you want to play 18 and go with Neto, because I think he's as solid for minutes as a Boomo.
Yeah, but the ceiling for a Boomo is much higher than a Neto, right?
Who's on pens for Wolves? They have not had a pen yet this season, right?
Cunha? We don't know exactly.
Probably one of the forwards.
Yeah, it has to be Wang or Neto. Or I reckon it'll be Neto. Good chance it'll be Neto.
I know because they've had penalty. I guess because you've had Jimenez and other guys in the past. I can't remember Neto ever taking one.
Yeah. It used to be Neves, right? Ruben Neves that used to take penalties back in the day. Now they've lost him. I'm wondering if
someone's asking about João Pedro. So, a lot of people actually, instead of the Nketiah pick on Wildcard, looked at João Pedro as the pick for Brighton. And this is on the back of De Zerbi basically saying that, between Fati and Pedro, Mitoma and Adingra, that's his preferred front. And obviously he immediately goes and drops Fati and Pedro. I just think it's too risky. So I think for this week, because Brighton are not in the Carabao Cup, there's a very high chance that Pedro starts. So definitely don't sell him this week. But for the week after the Sheffield United money game, I have my doubts because they have the Europa League in the middle. So if he starts 11, if he starts Europa League, he's going to miss Sheffield United. So wait and watch, but I don't think he's a sell this week.
This is the last question. Somebody is asking where we got the hop on, hop off charts. It's from @LegoMane on Twitter. He does great work. Highly recommend following him.
Absolutely.
Let's wrap up.
I think Let's wrap up. That's it for this week. Kind of chill week. Not much to talk about. I don't think a lot of FPL players have many decisions to make. So we will see you next week. Any last words, boys?
No, just to say that we've just started the November league. So if you'd like to join, you have to sign up to patreon.com/the FPL Wire, and you'll be eligible for the November. Well, you'll have to do it before the deadline. The November prize, as well as the Discord. I think we don't say this enough, but the Discord channel itself is a prize because it's amazing. I have to credit, there were 3 people that before when the Jesus news broke, I went straight to the Discord and I said, guys, I'm getting Nketiah. What do you think? Immediate answer was he's going to start. So up from all of the noise that I got sort of on Twitter on Havertz can start, Trossard can start, there's not a single doubt on our Discord that Nketiah will start. And then it's again these guys who I'm trusting because they said like it's only against Newcastle where there's a doubt for Nketiah. So again, absolutely amazing place. There were a couple of other people I want to shout out for Nketiah, actually Hedgehog on Twitter and Nima, of course, who I reached out to. So great place, Discord. If you want to join the fun, you can do so through the Patreon or the YouTube membership.
And we really want to try hitting 30K before the turn of the year. So if you could just click a couple of buttons, it really help us out. Thank you so much, guys.
It's great talking to you guys. I feel plugged back into football again. It was so hectic the last 7 days. Good to chat, and it'll be good to watch some football again this weekend.
Yeah, especially with 3 Spurs players.
That's a game I'm not watching. In fact, ironically.
like that's insurance as insurance can get.
LIC policy,
Yeah.
right? We need to approach them for sponsorship.
Yeah, we should. Maybe we should.
When it's a bad
All right,
game.
see you later, guys. Take
See
care.
you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Apologies for the network issues. I think it was probably YouTube, but it should be better on our end when I get my wired internet done next week. See you then. Bye-bye.